Let's see. First time I learned how babies are made was from Diane Weber, who was a new girl at the middle school, and she was floating some really crazy stories around the halls there. So when I heard them, I said, no way would my parents do that. But a seed had been planted, and I ran home and took a look at a book I'd never cared about before at all. It was called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask. And that's how I learned what I learned in 1965, was off the bookshelf in the hall at home. So I made the decision then and there that when I had kids, I'd make sure we were a little more deliberate about demystifying some of the facts of life. So when my son was 12 years old, the very age at which I'd learned the news, he came home with a really interesting note from the school indicating we should come in to learn about what they were going to teach the kids about human development, which I thought was really cool. And then in middle school, a note came home saying you should come in and find out about the textbook we're about to use in health class where we describe human reproduction. I thought, man, this school district is super, because I did go in and I found out what they were using, what they were telling from this textbook, and it was everything from peer pressure to dating to premenstrual syndrome. There was the egg and the sperm, there was pregnancy, there was AIDS, there was STDs, there was everything. It was wonderful. I thought, this is really cool. So when my first son brought home his first girlfriend the first time, I maybe was a little bit naive, but they went downstairs to the basement. They were 16. They went downstairs to the basement to watch a really scary movie called Silent Hill. And I stayed upstairs with my husband to watch a movie called 27 Dresses, kind of fun. Got really engaged in this movie, and about an hour and a half in, I sat bolt upright and said, oh my gosh, I have just left my kid and his girlfriend, my teenage son and his girlfriend, in the basement for an hour and a half all by themselves. And before I knew what happened, I had jumped up, I'd thrown open the basement door, and I'd flown down the steps, and I was standing in front of them. And yeah, the TV was on, and Silent Hill was playing, and I just really had no idea my kid was, he's a little boy, for Pete's sake. I had no idea it was sexual, and it was like this missionary-style baptism by fire, because although they had clothes on, he was 100% on top of her. They were not watching the movie. So we had it out for a few minutes, and it went pretty well. It was like a 10-minute discussion. I thought we'd really hit all the high spots. So I thought it went really well, until about 4 months later when my son came to our bedroom one night. And really, it's Thursday night. We got 3 kids. It's 11:30. We should have been in bed at 10:30. We're exhausted. And my son comes in, and I'm like, what are you doing in it? And by the way, I had on like this kind of sort of see-through-ish little nightie thing. And he comes and he shuts the door and he says, Mom, I think I got Leah pregnant. And I said, what the heck did you do? And he said, he's not going to tell me. He's going to tell me what he did. I said, where'd you do it? He says, well, in the park. Where in the park? Behind a bush. What? What'd you do? Well, he's not going to tell me. He's not going to tell me. He's 16 years old, and he's talking to his mother. He's not going to tell me what he did. And so I try to get creative. It's really cool that he's come to us, obviously respects us, he trusts us. This is very cool. So how am I going to retain all of this good stuff that we got? Well, I got to get really creative here. And so I announce, don't worry, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to tell you what people do who actively want to make babies and what they do with their bodies. And we're just going to walk through everything until we get down here to kissing and holding hands, which we know does not make a baby. And I'm going to use all the correct terms so there's no confusion about what we're talking about, okay? And my husband, who's in the room, he was in bed actually when I was getting ready, and he hears this proclamation, and he just like goes under the covers. And so I start, and I say, so if you put your in her, you can make a baby. And then we're going to cover all the bases. So I go down one notch, and I say, if you take your and put it in her and take it out, and then take it in and take it out, you can make a baby. And I go through this absurd litany of things you might do with your body, and somewhere around in here where you cannot make a baby, I see that he has a look come across his face like, what about that one? And so I go into a lot of detail about that one. And then I kind of, finish up and say, so do you have everything you need to know whether or not you've made a baby? And he says, no. I'm thinking, what the heck did I leave out? Are you kidding? What's left? And little do I know that the very thing that I heard in the halls of the middle school, the very thing I heard is the very thing that our school district decided very deliberately to omit from the training. The idea of exactly how the sperm meets the egg is left out. They've actively decided the parents should tell the kids this. I didn't know. I had no idea. So, unbeknownst to me, he thinks probably that a freewheeling egg and a freewheeling sperm out in Chester County can just make a baby. So we go into a lot of details. I answer a lot of very specific questions from him about what might happen, and I learn a little more than I want to about what might have happened. And he says, thanks, Mom. I think it would have been a medical miracle if we had been pregnant. So thank you, and off he goes to bed. And really, the reason I'm telling you this is because, yes, it was traumatic for me to learn the shocking news in the hallways of the middle school. But really, for my kid, was this not traumatic? I mean, when he hears the news for the first time, his father is hiding, and his mother is half-dressed and using her arm to describe every sexual act she's ever heard of or possibly engaged in.